the Denver Nuggets beat the LA Clippers 131-115 in a game that the Clippers like tried to make these little mini runs in after a terrible first quarter. That was really kind of the story of the game. The first quarter was a total beatdown. I loved what Jokic did, just completely controlling and dictating the game as a passer and playmaker, more so than as a scorer. I mean, it just felt like the Clippers never really had any chance to get on top of them defensively in any way, shape, or form. Anything that you felt like you saw in terms of why, the Clippers just had zero chance in this game?
Yeah. Jamal Murray couldn't miss. He had 43 in this game on 26 shots. And Russell Westbrook had 21 points on 15 shots. And I hope people appreciate us enough to know that we're not just like, hey, this team made shots, this team didn't, move on to the next series, right? Like we break things down in a way that is more nuanced and detailed than that when it needs to be. And there is some of that in this game as well. But at the end of the day, you could tell, like, one of my notes is on Murray is always the shot diet is so difficult, but he's used to this shot diet, and there are going to be games when he just is making everything. And that was tonight. And this is why in a playoff series in the NBA, when you have a chance to win games, you cannot give them away, because the other team has somebody like Jamal Murray who can go for 40 and dominate a game, or a guy off the bench like Russell Westbrook who has high variance, but who knows if he may play a game or back-to-back games where he's making jump shots. And it's just like, well, what do we do with this? And that's why you have to take advantage of games when you have a chance, or else you're up against these type of games like from somebody like Murray.
So couldn't agree with you more on any of this, first and foremost. And to me, it is a story of two things, this series, right? So the Clippers just gave away game one to me. That's kind of the reality of what happened there. I'm not going to say they gave away game four. That was an insane comeback where they had to go like on a 32-9 run to be able to push their way back into this. And the Nuggets obviously make this incredible, buzzer beating dunk at the end from Aaron Gordon off of a miss from Nikola Jokic. Like, that stuff's going to happen, right? The one they gave away was game one. And the other thing that they're giving away, they're just giving away points when Jokic is off the court.
Yeah,
that's the reality here.
That was huge tonight, Sam. I mean, anybody who watches the Nuggets game watches the non-Jokic minutes, right? It's the same way I watch the non-Cade minutes when watching the Pistons. And tonight it was like even -2, maybe something like that. And it may have been better than that until the very, I don't know what the final score, like, I don't know if the Clippers made some shots in the final few minutes or whatever, but
it was about even. So
okay.
Like, here's the thing. So remove game 3 from the equation here. The Clippers or was it game 2 that was the total beatdown? It was game 3 that was the
game
total
3
beatdown.
was it was the blowout. Yeah.
So remove game 3 from this equation. In games 1, 2, 4, and 5. Do you know how many points the Clippers are beating the Nuggets by when Nikola Jokic is off the court?
So 4 games, we're looking total points in 4 games. So it should be like, if they want to win, they should be plus 40. And I'm assuming they're not. Yes. Like, I'm guessing they're like plus 17 or something like that.
They're plus 13.
That's not that's not going to get it done.
Winning by fewer than 3 points per, or it's like right around 3 points per game, basically right now, in terms of how often they are winning the non-Jokic minutes. And that's not good enough. I think that's ultimately what this game came down to for me. I'm not going to lie to you. It felt like the Nuggets were the fresher team, when in reality, we talked about this Nuggets team being the one that doesn't have any depth, doesn't have this, doesn't have that. The Clippers bench has been abysmal. They've been an abomination this series to me. Like, you can point to individual performances from time to time. Like, I didn't think Bogdan was terrible tonight. Like, Bogdan had 18 points and 5 assists on 11 shots in 23 minutes. But he's also been terrible on defense. And in the first 3 games of the series, particularly, I thought he was really bad. And Ben Simmons is just like not quite good enough at this level, right? And Derek Jones, I think, has just not given them nearly enough on offense. And Nick Batum, plays really hard and is really sharp, but like didn't make shots tonight, right? So where is the two-way play coming from, and why are they not dominating the non-Jokic minutes? The reason tonight was just like obscene shot making from Russell Westbrook and Jamal Murray in the time where Jokic was off the court, right? I also think the Clippers just like randomly smoked some layups tonight. Like I think Zubats had a couple of smoked layups. Powell had a couple of smoked layups. Like these things happen. But the story of the series to me, above anything else before we go anywhere else, is that the Clippers are not beating the Nuggets by nearly enough in the non-Jokic minutes. We know that the starting lineup for Denver is excellent. And we know the Clippers starting lineup is excellent as well. But the issue is that, we think this Denver starting lineup might be, among the 2 or 3 best in the league, right? And we thought coming down the stretch, the Clippers might also be that as well. And part of the reason that I like the Clippers in this series is I specifically like the way that the Clippers matched up with the Denver starting lineup to be able to slow them down in some way. But the problem is that you're probably not going to beat the Denver starting lineup. So the idea is you have to slow them down. You have to mitigate your losses there in some way, shape, or form, and then just beat the shit out of them when the bench is on and when Jokic is off the court. The Clippers just aren't doing that in this series. And that to me is why the Nuggets are up 3-2. That is above all, without any that is the thing I point to in this thing and say, this is why this is happening.
I agree. And here's it doesn't get any better from tonight for the Clippers because Jokic only had to play 37 minutes tonight. And we are in the portion of the playoffs where game, day off, game, day off, game. And so they're going to get Wednesday off, come back Thursday. If it is forced to a game 7 day off. Yeah. And you mentioned kind of the Nuggets looking like the fresher team. Well, again, Jokic, who had been averaging 42 minutes a night coming into this game, only had to play 37. Actually, everybody outside of Murray in that starting lineup only had to play 37 minutes, only in quotations, but not having to play Jokic 45 to win the game 5 is huge for the Denver Nuggets. Cause now and to your point, he was like a creator I know he's always a creator, but he only took 13 shots, right? He only went to the free throw line 5 times. It was a 13, 10, 12 triple double. And so he didn't even have to expend the amount of energy to go take a bunch of shots and stuff like that. He was just orchestrating the offense, letting Murray knock down his shots. Again, like we mentioned, Russ was knocking down his shots. I think I'm always a fan of Christian Brown. I know the jumper hasn't been there, but what he does in transition, cutting, offensive rebounding. And if we want to start to transition to the Clippers, I think he's done a decent job on James Harden in this series. And I didn't think James Harden was very good tonight, Sam. The only Clipper who really impressed me in the starting lineup, Zubac, was still pretty good in my opinion, but Harden and Kawhi just weren't at the level we've seen in some other games in this series.
Yeah, Harden, I don't know what happened tonight. He just didn't have the juice.
It's back-to-back games. He has 26 points in the last 2 games. I mean, it's on 20 shots. He had 11 assists, in game 4. Tonight, he only had 5. Sorry, I interrupt, but yeah, it doesn't seem like he had the juice, the energy tonight for it. It was weird.
Yeah. And this is a game where they had 15 points from Chris Dunn and 18 from Bogdanovich. Those are the games you probably expect to win. I thought Kawhi was fine tonight for what it's worth.
Fine.
The Nuggets really are aggressively trying to take him away.
Yeah.
That is since, what was it, game 3 or game 2 where he went nuts.
It was game 3, right? Is that right?
Yeah, the one where he went totally crazy. They're really selling
game 2.
out.
That game 2 was the 39 point game on 19 shots. Jeez.
Yeah, they're doubling him aggressively.
Yeah.
Or maybe not even doubling, but sending a late double at times, sending help all the way his direction a lot of the time. And they are specifically trying to make his life drastically more difficult every single time he touches the ball. And to his credit, he had 11 assists tonight.
He did.
Right?
That's true. Yep.
He actually did a really good job, I felt of moving the ball and making sure that they stayed within flow. I'll be honest. I almost think that where he has not been awesome the last couple of games is on the defensive end. Sure. And you brought it up on the last show that we did that, the Nuggets started to attack him a little bit on defense. I don't think they were afraid of him tonight on defense either. I don't know that they specifically made it a point to attack him, but they were pretty good going at him if they needed to. And that's, to me, almost like the big difference right now between like the Kawhi that we know and the Kawhi that we hope to see moving forward. It's not necessarily the offense. Like the scoring, wasn't amazing tonight, but he still had 11 assists. He still helped the team. I thought the defense was not quite at the level, and I think it's been that way for the last couple of games.
Yeah, I mean, the Nuggets going for 131 in these playoffs. We just haven't seen many games like that throughout the play, not just in this series, but the playoffs in general, a scoring explosion like that. And I think you bringing up the bench stuff is really important. I think it's really smart, Sam, because the Denver starting five you put up against most starting fives. Like you feel like you're going to feel good if you're the Nuggets. The weakness was, do they get anything from the bench whatsoever? Obviously they did from Russ tonight. I felt like they had a crazy advantage with the lineup versatility and the people they could bring in with Batum and Derek Jones Jr., Bogdanovich. Like you said, like even Simmons hasn't been able to play though. And it just hasn't shown through at all in that way. And so advantage Nuggets, not just in the series, but by being able to find a way to manufacture points or stops or whatever they're doing, not to get destroyed in the non-Jokic minutes. And I feel like if in game 6, the Clippers can't do it, listen, after game 3, I was like, man, I was like feeling my Clippers love from during the regular season. I thought I was onto something. And these last 2 have made me, kind of question that, and that never question Nikola Jokic. I guess that would be the lesson learned here because he's amazing.
Well, I think game 1 is really the one that the Clippers are going to rue here if they lose the series.
Absolutely.
That's the one that they needed to win. Like that's the one that they really should have gotten, and they didn't. And because of that, they're sitting here down in a hole. They get to go home. People have been into it. They've talked a lot about the home court advantage and how great it's been so far, but I don't know. Look, you're playing Nikola Jokic, and Zubac is a great defender of Jokic, but he's able to beat you in 45 different ways because of the passing ability. So you put yourself in Jokic's hands in one of the next 2 games, and you deserve to get burnt. And really, like, again, I'm glad you brought up Jamal Murray. Like Jamal was the dude tonight. Like that's what all of this was Jamal just relentlessly attacking whoever they put on him. It felt like the Clippers, to me, at a certain point, decided they were going to start switching, and it really took like Chris Dunn off of Jamal. And, you had Harden on him, you had a big on him at times, like you had different circumstances that Jamal was really able to take advantage of. And look, Jamal is feeling it. If he's feeling it the way he was tonight, it's almost impossible to beat them, I think.
And I know tonight's numbers obviously are going to boost this a little bit, but for the series now, he's averaging 25 points on 48, 45, 93. And again, I know 17 to 26 and 8 to 14 from 3 boost those numbers, but games 2 and 3, he had 23 points in each of those games on 17 and 15 shots respectively. Game 1 wasn't as efficient. Game 4 is the only one that was kind of rough from him, efficiency wise, but even he's averaging 6 assists a game as well and 5 rebounds. It just, the health of Jamal Murray, his ability to play at this level, every broadcast they throw out the number of nobody has had a bigger jump in regular season to postseason points per games than Jamal Murray. And it's like, you kind of believe you're going to see playoff Jamal Murray, but there was still a little bit of questioning, at least on my end, in terms of, was he actually going to be able to get back to that? And it sure seems like he's found his rhythm and his groove. And to your point, against a good defender, like what should be a tough matchup for him with Chris Dunn, or switch out Kawhi on him and this Clippers defense in general. And he kind of just carved him up with alongside Nikola Jokic tonight.
And the other guy here that just continues to be enormous for the Nuggets to me is Aaron Gordon.
Sure.
Every single time that dude is on the court right now, he is just gritting his way through it. and has been phenomenal in this series. He has the dunk to win game 4. He had 25 in game 1. And then tonight he goes for 23, 4 and 2. He's awesome on defense. He goes to get every single loose ball. Like, they would be nowhere without Aaron Gordon right now. And he just continues to every single game provide these little winning plays, even outside of the scoring, that just continues to help them thrive.
I mean, here's what it is for the Nuggets. For me, is I feel like these guys they're kind of doing what they're supposed to be doing in their role. Porter Jr., like game 1 was he got benched essentially, right? And then he comes back and he has the 15 rebound game. That wasn't sustainable, but last 2 games, 17, 14 points. He's made 7 to 12 threes in those 2 games. I mentioned Christian Braun earlier. Again, I know the 3-point shooting hasn't been good in the playoffs, but he just makes tough plays, the rebounds. He had a sequence tonight where he bangs the 3 at the end of the 3rd quarter. Then he sprints back on defense and forces the steal so that Zubac couldn't catch the baseball pass or Hail Mary or whatever and finish right before the buzzer. I also thought it was interesting, on the challenge where Harden, I think, got him, Brown was asking for the review, and I don't think they were going to do it. And then Jokic said, you could see Jokic said, "Did he foul you?" And Christian told him yes. And then Jokic told him to review it. And then all of a sudden, Adelman decided they were going to go ahead and review. So I think that shows a little bit of trust that Jokic has in Christian Braun there. But my point was, seems like each member of this starting lineup is, and they've played together for so many years, Sam, finding their role and kind of thriving just in what they're supposed to do. Right. And that's a little bit dangerous for the rest of the West if they can figure it out. It's crazy that this team fired their head coach and GM a few weeks ago. Like, we're talking about them playing so well in the playoffs, and that just happened.
So the final place I just want to kind of go here is, how do the Clippers kind of get back into this in any way? And to me, it really just does come down to Harden. Obviously the Nuggets tonight, they didn't, as aggressively blitz ball screens with Harden, which is interesting in and of itself, that he had a really rough night when they just played drop, like in the first quarter, for instance. That was really all that they did, is they just decided, okay, we're going to play drop. This is typically how we get beat. But, with the way that the Clippers are slicing us up when we put 2 on the ball, with just Zubac being able to make decisions, I really liked the adjustment and just to make them see early in the game something different. I thought it was sharp, and the Clippers now have to find an answer. And to me, the way that you beat the Nuggets in drop is you just have to attack Jokic, and you have to make him slide his feet and be able to cut off the angle. And that comes down to Harden to me. Harden has to consistently be able to put pressure on him getting to the lane and make him make decisions and make him, stop Harden from turning the corner and be able to do the things that make Jokic at times, when he's in drop coverage specifically, more of a liability defensively. And tonight, that, again, just didn't happen in any way, shape, or form.
His field goal attempts have gone down every single game of the series, Sam. 22, 17, 14, 11, and 9 tonight.
I'm glad you bring this up, because this is something that we see from James in the playoffs. It gets progressively worse for whatever reason, be it the wear and tear, be it that he's dealing with some sort of injury. And, I hope that he's able to rebound, but that's what this comes down to for me now, is that it does, how the Clippers were able to run roughshod over the Nuggets early in this series, defensively particularly, was with the ball screen and with Harden, and then letting Kawhi play off of that and let him be like a secondary playmaker who creates open shots. Harden hasn't been able to do that recently. That's where it's going to come down to for me, is Harden has to be the guy here that is able to run a primary action for the Clippers.
Yeah, he's got to drive offense. I couldn't agree more. I think that's the thing to look forward to on Thursday.
It'll be Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah. Went past midnight, so the day changed. And it's harder to run two at Kawhi if he's in that situation. Whenever Kawhi's just coming down in an isolation or something like that, it's easier for the Nuggets to put two on him. But if it's Harden breaking the defense down off of a ball screen and then he skips it to Kawhi on the weak side and he's attacking a closeout, well, now the defense is in scramble and you can't put two on the ball and jump Kawhi whenever you're already in scramble because you're unbalanced. And so I'm with you. He's got to find the aggressiveness. We saw throughout the entire regular season, the aggressiveness we saw earlier in the series. He has to drive offense and then allow Kawhi and Norm Powell and Zubac to make shots and then create, if necessary, off of what he breaks down initially of the Nuggets defense.
The final thing I will note here is I will be interested to see if we see any sort of rotation change from the Clippers in regard to, okay, is there a way that we can adjust things to actually hammer the non-Jokic minutes?
Sure.
Like, is there a way that we can figure this out to where when he's off the court, we're giving ourselves a better chance to win?
Yeah. Can we have a certain lineup on the court whenever he leaves? Can we sub early, give a little bit into their starting lineup, but then we bring somebody back or something like that? That would be interesting, just to play with that with Ty Lue. Because that was another thing we talked about was, the coaching matchup in this series. And that would be a huge thing if Ty Lue could figure that out rotationally going into game 6.
All right. That's all I've got on this series. I mean, I think that obviously advantage Nuggets here moving forward. Yeah. They have the home court advantage in Denver in 7. And like, if the Clippers were a deeper team, I feel like I would feel better about the Clippers right now. But the fact that they aren't getting anything from their bench, outside of tonight from Bogdan, right? It kind of mitigates what I think is the biggest advantage that opposing teams have against the Denver Nuggets is their depth. And this playoffs, frankly, has kind of been the playoffs of depth to me at this point, between like Tatum missing time in the way that Minnesota is running roughshod over the Lakers through depth. And
the Warriors, right? Like the Warriors' depth has been a huge part of being able to sustain in that series.
I think that's absolutely right. Like you can look, the Indiana Pacers, right? Them just being able to come at the Bucks in waves. And we'll talk about that in a second here. This has been the playoffs of depth to me. And we always think of it as you need your 7-man rotation in the playoffs that you trust. And that just hasn't borne itself out this year in any way, shape, or form. It's been the teams that are deeper. And if neither of these teams are deep in reality, I think that where you kind of let it roll is you probably bet on Jokic at the end of the day.
Yeah. If neither, like, because does either team have 7 you trust right now, specifically in this series? I don't know that you do. So then it almost comes down to, okay, who has the best starting 5? And if nothing else, the Nuggets have the best player in the starting 5. And whenever Murray's locked in, and again, I think these guys have figured out their roles and kind of, I don't want to say thriving in them because I don't know that that's true for all of them, but all of them playing pretty well in their roles right now. So yeah, I'm with you.
Do you know who played the 7th most minutes on the Nuggets tonight?
DeAndre Jordan.
It was DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah.
That is 100% right. He played 10 minutes. Like they really went with 6 with Russ and it worked. But like on the other side, the Clippers went with 7 in Batum and Bogdanovich, and then Derek Jones played 14, right? So that was your 8. And you know what? Like Derek Jones goes for 7 points. Obviously Bogdan has the, 18 points, and Batum has 6 rebounds. And I thought he really went in and like grabbed the contested ball like pretty effectively, but 0 points, like doesn't score. So if we're going to assume that there's no depth in this series, that's what it comes down to for me, is the Clippers being able to find a way to win those non-Jokic minutes.
Yep. 100%.